2 days, he left for Galilee. Now Jesus himself had pointed out that a prophet has no honor in his own country. When he arrived in Galilee, the Galileans welcomed him. They had seen all that he had done in Jerusalem at the Passover feast, for they also had been there. Once more he visited...
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. So Jesus left Sychar and went back to Galilee. So Jesus is in Galilee now. The verse 44 really stands out. It says, a prophet has no honor in his own country. This verse isn't in red, so it's not Jesus speaking directly. Instead, John is giving us insight into what Jesus was experiencing as Jesus was returning back to his hometown, the region of Galilee. What are your thoughts? Why did Jesus was thinking that a prophet has no honor in his own country? By this point, the news of his miraculous signs was spreading fast. People were talking, crowds were forming, and excitement was growing. But Jesus could see something deeper. Many were more fascinated by the miracles rather than the message he came to proclaim. They were drawn to the signs, but not necessarily to the truth behind them. That reality made an impression on Jesus. It was significant enough that John mentions it. Also, Jesus had just experienced something very different in the town of Sychar in Samaria, where he spent 2 days teaching the people. Their openness, their hunger for truth, and their willingness to believe may have stood in sharp contrast to the attitudes he noticed when he came back to Galilee. Perhaps this is why Jesus was hesitant about performing his first miracle of turning water into wine. People could easily become amazed by the miracle itself and miss the purpose of his teaching and mission.
I think that's a very good point. You would become impressed by the extraordinary and not by his teaching, because it does say he went and he told them or spoke and preached in the places he went. But if it's only just always the extra special extraordinary, then maybe the true love isn't as good as it should be. I remember just this very simple illustration. In our family, my father had relatives in the USA, and I hardly remember who they are, but they were uncles of some kind. And sometimes they came and visited in Canada, and as children, they would give us a silver dollar. I don't remember what that uncle looks like. I don't even know his name, but I remember he gave a silver dollar.
Yeah. So
the extra special sticks out, but not, maybe he was a nice, loving person. I have no idea. I just know as a kid, wow.
Yes. Yep.
And so some people were just impressed by his miracles. And those that knew him from his hometown, it says he couldn't do many miracles there because maybe they expected or they didn't believe, or, it's just a carpenter's son. Why?
Yep.
Who cares?
Yeah. Thank you.
That's my thoughts on it.
Yep. Thank you. After all, the Galileans welcomed Jesus, and I think that by that time, Jesus' reputation was spreading quickly. Some people already knew him because of his first miracle, and some of them were in Jerusalem during the Passover feast, experiencing Jesus' presence there. I can imagine that. Everyone who heard about him wanted to see him for themselves and witness the miracles they had been told about. Can we please remind ourselves about what Jesus did at the Passover feast at Jerusalem? It's actually written in John 2, verse 13 to 16.
That's what I was thinking too. He tied some cords together and he drove out the money changers and those that were selling cattle and sheep and sacrificed animals and basically making business out of religion.
Yep. I can read it. When it was almost time for Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple courts he found men selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip out of cords and drove all from the temple area, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. To those who sold doves, he said, "Get this out of here. How dare you turn my father's house into a market?" So the people turned the temple court to a marketplace. Jesus cleared out the filthy mess from the temple. That is very impressive and indicates his magnificent power. And then, later on, in verse 23 says, "Now, while he was in Jerusalem at the Passover feast, many people saw the miraculous signs he was doing and believed in his name." So he did other miracles at the Passover at Jerusalem that we don't know much about. But that's what happened on the Passover feast down at Jerusalem. Well, let's continue the reading with today's chapter, John 4, verses 46 and 47.
Once more he visited Cana in Galilee, where he had turned the water into wine. And there was a certain royal official whose son lay sick at Capernaum. When this man heard that Jesus had arrived in Galilee from Judea, he went to him and begged him to come and heal his son, who was close to death.
Thank you. So now we are back in Cana, and Capernaum is up there. It's about 30 kilometers away from each other. I can imagine that the nobleman and his family had already tried everything possible to help the boy. Yet, nothing brought healing. I assume this man had wealth and access to the best resources. He was, after all, a royal official. He likely hired skilled physicians and paid costly treatments, but none of them made a difference. What do you think? What led this nobleman to believe that Jesus might be the one who could heal his sick son? Yes.
It's interesting. Jesus just arrived in Galilee, and the message of his arrival spread all over the country. Even 30 kilometers away, they had no other communication, just mouth to mouth. And the one talks to the other. And this royal official heard about, and he probably heard also about the miracles, what he has done in Jerusalem. Maybe he was there at the Passover. So he has seen it and heard about it. And then he was thinking, that's the only man who can help. So I will go there and ask him in person. And he took the travel 30 kilometers, maybe on horse, or it goes a little bit faster, to search for Jesus in Cana.
Yeah, you made a good point. Thank you. Steve?
It's sort of not mentioned, but like Naaman had servants, and they persuaded him to dip himself into the river and listen to the prophet. In the same token, I think this man had servants, which it mentions, and maybe he listened to his servants, and being rich and powerful, usually they didn't listen to the servants, but maybe he was humble enough to take their advice and go and see Jesus. So it doesn't say that, but it's either him or his servants who have advised him to seek Jesus, because he was that person that would help a helpless situation.
Yes.
And I think it shows that it doesn't matter how rich you are, doesn't matter how powerful you are, we all need Jesus at one time or another. So, his money couldn't buy the life, he couldn't save his son. So it doesn't matter how rich or powerful he was, there was something that he couldn't do, and that was to help his son, so he's seek Jesus out.
Thank you. So the official had nothing else left except hope. So when he heard that Jesus is coming back to Galilee, his hope transferred to faith in Jesus. And it was strong enough to push him to travel about 30 kilometers to see Jesus and ask his help. This man was working for the king, so he was likely respected and educated. Yet he still went to Jesus without hesitation and shame to ask Jesus to use his power to help. Those days,
It reminds me, if someone wants to repent, usually he has to go to the lowest point in his life, totally devastated. Then he turns to Jesus for help. This is what this man did. He was on the lowest point. He spent a lot of money.
Yep.
His son didn't get better, so he turned to Jesus.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
And like, if we read in Mark, I'm not sure the chronology, but it seems like Jesus had already been in Capernaum prior to that, and had done enough miracles that there was already a following and a reputation. But perhaps that man kind of, oh, well, that's not going to help. I'll go to my specialist doctors for my son.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the way, he had a change that, okay, I better listen to the servants, or maybe Jesus can help. So it started this way, but it ends up very different.
That's right. Actually, the Bible says before he went down to Jerusalem for Passover, he was up in Capernaum.
Yeah, so already he had some knowledge or heard about what Jesus can do, healing very sick and possessed people and so on.
So those days, that journey alone shows remarkable belief. The difficulty of travel, searching for Jesus and pushing through the crowds simply to beg Jesus to come and heal his son. So this man's faith was put to the test. Yet he carried out everything he set in his heart to do. He didn't turn back midway through the journey, or did he hesitate when he saw the crowds around Jesus. This nobleman put a lot of effort in to get Jesus' help because he truly believed in Jesus. Do you have any comments on this? Yes, Steve?
It's interesting that Jesus responds to need, not the demand. And when you look at the Jewish leaders, they wanted Jesus, and demanded Jesus to show them some miracles. And Jesus said the only miracle will be his death and his resurrection. So that's the only thing they're going to need to see. But when there is a real need, Jesus performs miracles.
That's great. Thank you. Let's continue the reading with verses 48 to 50, please.
Unless you people see miraculous signs and wonders, Jesus told him, you will never believe. The royal official said, Sir, come down before my child dies. Jesus replied, you may go, your son will live. That's to the end of 50. Oh, I missed some of it, sorry. The man took Jesus at his word and departed.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. So when I picture this scenery, I see Jesus just finished his teaching at an open place, crowded with people, lots of people around him. And this royal official pushes his way through the crowd of people determined to reach Jesus, to ask him to come to his house to heal his ill son. His need is deeply personal. Yet Jesus responds in a voice loud enough to everyone around to hear. Jesus was saying, unless you people see miracles and wonders, you are not going to believe. Jesus' words may have sounded sharp, but he knew that there were lots of people motivated by seeing wonders and not studying Jesus' words. They were interested only in what Jesus could do for them, not in who Jesus truly is. The Galileans, probably unsure how to make sense of everything. They had just witnessed Jesus' first miracle a few days back in Cana. Then Jesus traveled to Jerusalem for the Passover. We talked about what happened at the Passover in Jerusalem. On his return, he stopped at Sychar, revealing he is the Messiah. After that, he came back to Cana, that very place where his first miracle happened. It's likely that the news of his miracles spread faster than the message of who he truly is. Jesus was testing the man's faith with saying, unless you people see miracles and wonders, you are not going to believe. Anyone who was there to witness or see a miracle would have walked away at this point, thinking, this man is not going to do a miracle today. But this man wasn't after a wonder. He already believed, and he came because he needed help. So he stayed, and with desperation, he asked Jesus one more time, come and heal his son before it gets too late. Then Jesus was telling the man, you may go, your son will live. The man demonstrated his faith in Jesus once again. He didn't keep begging or questioning how Jesus could heal my son without seeing or touching him. What is your perspective? What did the noble man expect when he asked Jesus to come down to heal his son? Brother Scott?
I see a mixed bag here from this noble, whether he was a royal, the way that we interpret it, or some official, we don't know.
Yep.
But he had authority. And he comes with that authority to tell Jesus what to do. Now, who is the servant? And who is the master?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's question number one. Question number two, it would have taken him a day to get 30 kilometers, is a day's walk.
Yeah.
And I like the way that Jesus hears what he has to say about his son. I can imagine, obviously there's no detail, but how about we sit down, let's talk about faith. Let's talk about belief. What does he say? I don't care. My son is dying. I don't care about faith. I don't want to discuss that. Don't you realize that my son is dying? And then Jesus says, okay, go. I'm not going to go to your place. You need to understand who is in a place of authority here. Who is the servant and who is the master. And translated to us today, just listening to prayers. Who is the servant and who is the master? Lord, do this and do that and do that, and I beg you that you would do that. Yeah? Whether it's from your chair, your table, or beside your bed somewhere. But the question is, who is the master and who is the servant? And it's clear here that Jesus, in his act, he says, I am the master. Yeah. You go, and your son will live.
And the man listened. Listened what Jesus told him.
Well, he believed that, but he did not really believe, because later tells us that later he believes in Jesus. So he took it as miracle man. Maybe he's gonna. I'm gonna go home and maybe it'll be okay.
Okay. Sorry, Ronnie?
My comment was from a previous question when you said, why is the prophet not welcome in his hometown? And I thought about that, and I think it's because familiarity breeds contempt, which is true when you think of Proverbs, when Proverbs says, don't set foot in your neighbour's house too often. So familiarity breeds contempt, and I think it was in that vein that people adopted the idea of the original person. Ways that a prophet not welcoming his hometown.
Yeah. Thank you. Brother Steve?
So when we demand things, that's what we're in control. When we have a need and plead, then Jesus is in control. So this guy was in real need, and he pleaded Jesus to help. So he didn't demand of Jesus, he pleaded with him to help because of his son.
Well,
he was a broken man, and he didn't sort of exercise his riches or